Oh boy, today we are going to talk about a controversial topic here in the United States. We'll also talk about what controversial means. That will be our first item. We will look at a news clip that will have the words on the screen. There will be subtitles, and I've slowed it down just a little bit. But before we watch that clip, let's talk about two words that are going to be important in order for you to watch this news clip. The first one is controversial. Controversial. There are a couple different ways to pronounce that in English, but most people in the United States will pronounce it controversial. That means something that causes a lot of disagreement or discussion. Now, I wanted to keep the example fun. Some people might think pineapple on pizza is a good thing, but it can be quite controversial. Some people say you should never put pineapple on pizza. But things will get a little more serious with the example sentence, and for each topic, I will have a simple definition and an example sentence. The topic of abortion is very controversial with people having strong opinions on both sides. I planned on talking about abortion a little later because the news clip talks about it later, but I think we should talk about it right now. An abortion is a medical procedure to end or terminate. That is a verb you will hear, like terminate the pregnancy. I'll start it again. Abortion is a medical procedure to end or terminate a pregnancy. So when a woman gets pregnant, sometimes she doesn't want to give birth to the baby. She could go see a doctor and have that pregnancy terminated. In other words, the baby will not be born. Let's look at this sentence. The debate over whether abortion should be legal is dividing the country. If you have been watching these English lessons, you know that we have Democrats and Republicans in this country. They are our two biggest political parties. Most Democrats are pro-choice. In other words, they believe a woman should have the right to have an abortion. Republicans often call themselves pro-life. They are against a woman's choice to have an abortion. Kamala Harris is a Democrat. Donald Trump is a Republican. Kamala Harris is pro-choice. Donald Trump is pro-life. Mostly. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But let's watch the news clip and then we'll talk about it after.
The presidential campaigns are zeroing in on reproductive rights. Former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris both made statements about them on the campaign trail.
Oh, a great phrasal verb here. I hope it is new for everyone. The news reporter said zeroing in. It's not easy to say zeroing in. You may know the number 0. It really doesn't have anything to do with that number. Zeroing in means to focus closely on something. Vice President Harris is zeroing in on women's reproductive rights during her campaign speeches. Reproductive rights. We will talk more about that next. Oh, wait, and I forgot to put up the picture for zeroing in. In the picture, you can see a magnifying glass. We would call that a magnifying glass. And in the middle is a bullseye with a dart going through the middle. Reproductive rights. To reproduce something means you make another of it. You make a copy of it. When people reproduce, they have babies. Reproductive rights means the rights related to having children and making decisions about one's own body. As I said earlier, Democrats believe women have the choice whether they want to have the baby or not. Harris believes that reproductive rights, including the right to abortion, should be protected. A sign you might see at some rallies is the sign, "My body, my choice." So anyone holding a sign like that, you could assume they are probably a Democrat.
The presidential campaigns are zeroing in on reproductive rights. Former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris both made statements about them on the campaign trail.
The campaign trail. They talked about that. What is it? A campaign means somebody is trying to be elected. So up until Election Day, Vice President Harris and former President Trump will be campaigning. They will be trying to get elected president. The campaign trail is the places and events where politicians travel and speak during an election. Here's a sentence. On the campaign trail, Trump often talks about his stance on abortion. His stance is another way to say how he feels about abortion.
Former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris both made statements about them on the campaign trail. Our 27 News Washington correspondent Vinay Simla joins us live from our nation's capital tonight. And Vinay, right now the candidates appear to really be clashing on this issue.
Love this verb here, clashing. Clashing. Take a look at that picture. You have some boxing gloves going towards each other. Clashing means when two or more people strongly disagree. Harris and Trump are clashing over the issue of abortion in their debate. May I ask, if you haven't done so yet, could you please hit that like button if you are enjoying this English lesson? And if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button so you never miss another English lesson.
Right now, the candidates appear to really be clashing on this issue.
Rebecca, the Harris campaign announced a reproductive freedom bus tour with 50 stops in key states.
What about an issue? An issue, that means a topic or problem that people are concerned about. Of course, many people are concerned over the issue of abortion. Let's take a look at this sentence. Abortion has become a major issue in the upcoming election. But an issue could actually be a problem. Look at this sentence. We had an issue at work today. Our computers stopped working. What about bus tour? They mentioned that. You probably know what a bus is. Well, this has something to do with the campaign trail. Maybe they are riding in a bus. Vice President Harris is. Bus tour, a journey by bus that politicians take to meet people and talk about their campaign. Harris started a bus tour to visit key states and discuss her views on abortion. Key states. What are those? Key states. Key is another way to say important. And as you know, we have 50 states in the United States. Key states are important states in an election that can decide the outcome. And highlighted on that map, you can see Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and all the way at the top, it's kind of hidden, but it's Wisconsin. Both candidates are focusing on key states where the debate on abortion could influence voters.
Rebecca, the Harris campaign announced a reproductive freedom bus tour with 50 stops in key states. Former President Donald Trump at campaign events yesterday talked about abortion and IVF.
We want more babies, to put it very nicely.
Okay, this gets a little medical here. IVF, what does that mean? In vitro fertilization. Okay. What does that mean? A medical process where an egg is fertilized by sperm outside the body, then placed in the woman's womb. I did an entire English lesson on how to talk about birth. I will link that to the end of this English lesson. It might help when trying to understand all of those terms there. But to kind of put it simply, remember, I'm not a doctor. It's basically making a baby outside of a woman's body and then putting that stuff in a woman's body so a baby will grow. I'm sure you have a word for that procedure in your language. Hopefully that makes sense. Some people worry that new abortion laws might also affect access to IVF treatments. So if it becomes more difficult in this country to have an abortion, it might also be more difficult to have an IVF if you would like. An IVF? I think it's just IVF. If couples can't have a baby in the usual way, they might turn to IVF.
Rebecca, the Harris campaign announced a reproductive freedom bus tour with 50 stops in key states. Former President Donald Trump at campaign events yesterday talked about abortion and IVF.
We want more babies, to put it very nicely.
Former President Donald Trump announced a new position on in vitro fertilization, a treatment that can cost tens of thousands of dollars.
Tens of thousands of dollars. A little tricky to say, but it's a way to describe a very large amount of money, especially between $20,000 and $90,000. You might also hear millions of dollars, thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars. You probably wouldn't hear tens of dollars. You probably wouldn't hear dozens of dollars. You might hear dozens of people. It's just easier to say than tens of people. You might hear dozens of people, dozens of things. It's usually like more than 10, but less than 100. You just might hear like a bunch of money though. You know, dozen is 12, right?
We want more babies, to put it very nicely.
Former President Donald Trump announced a new position on in vitro fertilization, a treatment that can cost tens of thousands of dollars.
Under the Trump administration, your government will pay for, or your insurance company will be mandated to pay for, all costs associated with IVF treatment.
Trump's announcement didn't sit well with some others in his own party.
A mandate. What is that? They talk about that all the time when they talk about politics. It's an official order or requirement. Some states have a mandate that limits when and how abortions can be performed. We have blue states in this country. That is where more Democrats live. We have red states in this country. That is where more Republicans live. It is usually harder now to get an abortion in a red state. If a woman is living in a red state, she may have to travel to a blue state to get an abortion. That takes time and that takes money. Some people think that is not fair. And those people are probably Democrats. Love this term. In the news clip, they said, didn't sit well. What does that mean? When something causes discomfort or disagreement. Trump's comments about banning abortion didn't sit well with many voters. Remember, Trump's party does not believe in abortion, but he said that the state of Florida and their rule about having an abortion within 6 weeks, or was it 8 weeks? He said that's too short. There should be a longer period of time for a woman to decide. Many Republicans would disagree with him. You could also use didn't sit well like this. The meal we had last night didn't sit well with my stomach. You know, you might have had an upset stomach after eating that meal.
Under the Trump administration, your government will pay for, or your insurance company will be mandated to pay for, all costs associated with IVF treatment.
Trump's announcement didn't sit well with some others in his own party. Republican Congressman Chip Roy wrote online, "Count me as a no on expanding health mandates, no matter who is pushing them."
Anytime you hear expanding, think getting bigger. But the official definition means making something larger or more inclusive. Inclusive means more people can do it or more people can have it. I could not find a great picture for expanding, that is supposed to be a woman handing out information about abortion. She's trying to get that information to more people, expanding the knowledge.
Trump's announcement didn't sit well with some others in his own party. Republican Congressman Chip Roy wrote online, "Count me as a no on expanding health mandates, no matter who is pushing them." And a Harris campaign spokesperson wrote the Republican Party's official position could effectively ban IVF and abortion nationwide.
The news clip mentions spokesperson. What is that? Spokesperson. It's a person who speaks on behalf of a group or an individual. Politicians are very busy on the campaign trail. Sometimes they have other people speak for them. The spokesperson for Harris's campaign explained her position on abortion during a press conference. Ban. To officially forbid something. Like, it can't happen. Trump supports a ban on abortion after a certain point in pregnancy.
Trump also talked abortion on Thursday. After his rally in Michigan, he told NBC News that Florida's law banning abortion after 6 weeks was too short. A campaign surrogate explained Trump's views as he represents a party that's mostly anti-abortion.
Let's just be honest. There are divisions of the party when it comes to the issue of the sanctity of life.
Campaign surrogate. Remember we talked about spokesperson earlier? It's basically the same thing. A campaign surrogate is a person who represents a campaign and speaks on their behalf during the campaign. Harris's campaign surrogate visited key states to talk about the importance of reproductive rights. Now, the news clip does not mention this, but since we are talking about IVF and abortion, I wanted to teach you this term in English: surrogate mother. What is that? A woman who agrees to carry and give birth to a baby for someone else. So let's say a couple cannot have a baby on their own. A surrogate mother will carry the baby for them. Some people worry that abortion bans could affect the rights of surrogate mothers. I had a friend who became a surrogate mother, and she made a lot of money. She made tens of thousands of dollars. I believe she made $30,000 to carry that baby for a couple who could not do so. Divisions in the party. People are arguing with each other. Republicans are arguing with Republicans. Democrats might be arguing with Democrats. Divisions in the party. Disagreements or different opinions within a political party. The debate over abortion is causing divisions in the party, with some members disagreeing on the issue. They mentioned the sanctity of life. Think sacred, like really, really, really important. The sanctity of life is the belief that life is sacred and should be protected. If somebody believes in the sanctity of life, they probably don't believe in abortion. Trump argues that the sanctity of life is why abortion should be restricted. Restricted does not mean ban. Ban means it can't happen at all. Restricted means there are certain rules that go along with it. We need to talk about a court case called Roe v. Wade. But let's talk about overturning. What does that mean? To reverse or change a decision or law. The Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade has created new arguments about abortion. To give you a little background on what the court case is, let's take a look at this paragraph. Roe v. Wade was a 1973 court case in the United States. The Supreme Court decided that women have the right to choose an abortion, making it legal across the country. However, in 2022, the Supreme Court overturned this decision, allowing each state to decide if abortion is legal or not. So before 2022, all of the states had basically the same rule. You could get an abortion. After 2022, Roe v. Wade was overturned. That decision went back to each of our 50 states. That is why it is easier to get an abortion in a blue state, harder to get one in a red state.
Trump's announcement didn't sit well with some others in his own party. Republican Congressman Chip Roy wrote online, "Count me as a no on expanding health mandates, no matter who is pushing them." And a Harris campaign spokesperson wrote the Republican Party's official position could effectively ban IVF and abortion nationwide. Trump also talked abortion on Thursday. After his rally in Michigan, he told NBC News that Florida's law banning abortion after 6 weeks was too short. A campaign surrogate explained Trump's views as he represents a party that's mostly anti-abortion.
Let's just be honest. There are divisions of the party when it comes to the issue of the sanctity of life.
Vice President Harris has blamed Trump for the Supreme Court overturning the right to abortion. She says Congress should restore it.
So Vice President Harris was talking about Roe v. Wade maybe getting restored. Now, she couldn't do that on her own. It would take the Supreme Court to do that. But to restore something means to bring something back to its original condition. Harris wants to restore the protections for abortion that were in place before Roe v. Wade was overturned. One common way you will hear restored is with electricity. You might lose electricity, you no longer have lights, but then somebody might come along, like the people in the picture, or actually maybe there's only one person in the picture, but that person is in a bucket truck. He is working on the power lines. It looks like he is restoring power to that neighborhood. He's bringing the power back on. I hope you know English a little bit better than before. If you're still looking for more English, right down there is that English lesson I did about birth. My lovely wife, Jamie, joins me for the lesson. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.